Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for Opportunities, Challenges, and the Future of Building Technology Adoption. We're excited to have all of you with us today. And I am Priscilla Kakeritz. I am the CEO of Energy Print. We're very pleased to host Envizi's David Solsky and Tanya March for today's topic. We've partnered with Envizi to mutually serve our market because we see them as a technology leader in our space. We're going to spend the majority of our time today hearing about the successes in technology and sustainability in Australia, and also unpacking the research that Envizi has commissioned regarding the progress being made in the US market on technology adoption. We plan to have time for a few questions at the end, so throughout the webinar, please use the chat panel to send us questions. We'll do as many of those as we can at the end of the webinar. Also, we are going to be transitioning speakers, so in transitions, you may see a pause or a freeze in your screen. Don't worry about it. It will progress in a few seconds, but just be aware of that. Now, without further ado, we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of this webinar. I'd like to introduce Dave Solsky, CEO and co-founder of Envizi. David, we really appreciate you joining us. We know it's actually the wee early hour mornings in Australia, and we appreciate you getting up early to come and share your insight and this very insightful research. And with that, I will hand it over to Dave.
Thank you so much, Priscilla.
The slides should be coming up for you, David, in just a second. So we're passing the presenter mode. So everybody bear with us for just a moment.
Thanks, Priscilla. Have I come up on the webinar?
You are on, so you can go ahead and roll ahead. Thank you, David.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this afternoon in the US. It is the early hours of the morning, but I'm certainly delighted to be with you and sharing some insights today. Firstly, just a couple of very quick ones about Envizi. For those of you that don't know us, we're a global data and analytics software provider. We're based here out of Sydney, Australia, with offices in Melbourne, San Francisco, and London. And our focus is really around the built environment. So we are supporting currently around 160 global enterprises who have about 130,000 locations in 112 countries. So we touch a lot of buildings, large buildings, small buildings, through the course of our travels across a number of different verticals. And Envizi delivers 4 key solutions to the market: sustainability reporting, utility expense management, which is really what initiated our exciting partnership with Energy Print over the past 12 to 18 months. We focus on energy management, sort of behind the meter, and what's most relevant today, and particularly to your sector, is asset optimization, getting deep into the building at the IoT level, at the sensor level with BMS. So we have an extensive platform, very broadly deployed globally. But really what I'm here to talk about today is some of our experience both in the Australian market and more recently what we're seeing in the US and North American market. One of the things that we're very proud about in Australia, we don't lead the world in a whole lot, but what we do tend to do very well is sustainability and energy performance around buildings. We have some incredible credentials. We have companies that have led the Dow Jones Sustainability Index globally for the last 7 to 8 years in the commercial real estate sector are Australian. We've performed exceptionally well in GRESB. We are leading in the Advancing Net Zero program. So Australia does have some outstanding credentials in and around energy and sustainability performance. And I often get asked on my travels into North America, into the UK and Europe, why has Australia done so well in this particular sector? And I guess our secret sauce, the thing that's really made it happen for us, is a rating system called NABERS, the National Australian Built Environment Rating Scheme, which was actually established way back in 1998, and it's really focused on building performance. So it's not building design like LEED. It's more like the Energy Star program in the US. In fact, it's really quite similar in terms of the mathematical and empirical based studies that support the rating scheme. The fundamental reason, though, that the scheme has been so successful in Australia has really come down to strong government support. So what our government did at all levels, federal, state and local, is that they mandated that government agencies can only lease space or occupy buildings that are 4.5 stars and above. The other thing that they did was they said that every building over 10,000 square feet must have a current rating to be able to actually sell or lease that building. So it really did have a significant impact and wide-reaching impact across our built environment. And if you look at just the last 7 years of the program alone, we've seen about a 25% improvement in commercial building energy efficiency in Australia over that past 7 years. And so the key thing that we've learned is, there were significant improvement opportunities in buildings. So there was a huge amount of inefficiency within our building stock. And in a very short period of time, we've been able to actually harvest a lot of that efficiency opportunity. Now, for those of you that don't know too much about GRESB, that's the Global Real Estate Sustainability Benchmark, which is really used by the investor community originally to help assess the environmental sustainability of buildings for international investors. GRESB was originally founded in the Netherlands, and today over 80 institutional investors representing about $18 trillion in institutional capital use GRESB's environmental sustainability and governance data to help decision making. And what they have shown is that companies or commercial real estate owners that have better ESG credentials have been able to attract capital more easily, and they have seen a very strong flow of funds into the Australian market given the strong sustainability performance of our buildings. What's interesting is that Australia has actually led for the last 8 years the GRESB ranking. So the chart that I've just brought up now shows you the most recent score. So we will actually have GRESB results out in the next 2 or 3 months again. But looking back to the most recent scores in 2018, you can see that the US scored 70 out of 100. Australia scored 76 out of 100, which is the highest score globally. What's interesting, though, is if you look at the scores from 3 years ago, which are the numbers in red, you can see that the US was actually the low, or North America, but it's predominantly US, was the lowest score globally at 54. So over the last 3 years, I think the really interesting takeout here is that the US has had the strongest growth in GRESB scores and performance, and has significantly closed the gap on the rest of the world, and is now starting to catch up to Australia. The current GRESB scores are calculated with a weighting partly towards, which is actually today predominantly towards actually having the right structure, policies and frameworks in place to support sustainability with a relatively smaller performance component. That's changing over the next 5 years, and the weighting will be more towards performance. So what's going to be really interesting to see is we expect Australia to actually widen the gap again over the next 3 to 4 years, given how well the building stock performs in Australia. And it'll be interesting now to see what happens to the North American scores, given the relative inefficiency of the building portfolios relative to a country like Australia, who's had this very aggressive efficiency program driven by neighbours over the last decade. The other very exciting initiative that we're seeing coming to the fore now is the Advancing Net Zero program, which is really a World Green Building Council project that's been, that's being rolled out on a global basis. Under the Advancing Net Zero program, the long-term goal is that by 2050, which I appreciate is still a fair way away, but at that stage, 100% of buildings must operate at net zero carbon. The shorter term goal over the next decade is that by 2030, all new buildings must operate at net zero carbon. And I think that really does provide some interesting opportunities for the building services and mechanical contracting channel globally, as they will be looking to deploy HVAC systems in particular that are more efficient in new builds to help drive down that overall energy footprint of the building. Australia, as one would expect, Out of the 51 initial signatories last year to this net zero commitment, about 20% are coming from within Australia, which is fantastic. And you know, I'm really delighted that GPT, Cbus, Dexus, and the City of Sydney, who are 4 major clients of Envizi's, are part of this initiative. I think the most exciting thing, however, about this net zero initiative is really when you look at what's happening at a city level. So as of May 2019, 23 of the C40 city mayors have signed up to the net zero carbon buildings declaration. So this declaration is really entire cities signing up, you know, at the governmental level and committing to introducing regulation or planning policies for net zero carbon buildings. And as part of that initiative, these cities are committing to owning, occupying, and developing only assets that are net zero carbon in operation by 2030. So this is probably the closest that we have seen to the kind of governmental intervention we've had in Australia through the Neighbours program, where cities are now saying that they're going to be striving towards net zero carbon by 2030. And you can see on the right-hand side of the screen, you know, these large US cities that are coming on board. You know, most recently there were very exciting announcements out of both New York vector their legislative and regulatory frameworks that they're bringing in this regard. At the end of the day, though, one of the things that we've learned from working with our corporate real estate owner clients in Australia is that it's the dollars that count. GPT is a company that has actually led on the Dow Jones Sustainability Index for the real estate sector globally. They've been number 1 or 2 for the last 7 or 8 years. And it's really incredible sustainability credentials. You can see their average 4.8 star rating, neighbours rating on their buildings, which you know, is up from 3 stars about 6 or 7 years ago, is really incredible sustainability performance. But you know, what our customers have consistently told us is that whilst the sustainability credentials are absolutely critical to them, it's also about the money. And GPT have been able to achieve enormous savings. You know, utilities costs, you know, over the past decade or so, they estimate that they've avoided nearly $95 million in electricity, gas, and water utility expenses since 2005. So, you know, the financial driver is still very, very strong within these organizations. So why is this relevant to, you know, commercial real estate owners in the US market, and ultimately how does that make that relevant to organizations like yours? Well, we believe that attracting investment capital will be increasingly linked to the likes of GRES scores. So that $18 trillion worth of investor funds, you know, is ultimately looking to invest in more sustainable real estate assets. As I mentioned, we were really excited by the announcements recently out of New York and Washington, D.C. in terms of their building efficiency mandates, but we have seen, you know, mandates right across the US at a state and city level. I think there's no doubt that the financial performance of commercial real estate owners will be under pressure. We've obviously come through a very protracted, you know, economic growth cycle following the global financial crisis, you know, due to low interest rates. But, you know, that is starting to slow down now. Asset prices are slowing. So a lot of the organizations that we talk to in North America are telling us that, you know, pennies are going to start counting. The costs associated with running buildings are coming into the spotlight now as asset prices go down, and they've got to find other ways to keep growing enterprise value. We're obviously seeing government departments and leading companies in North America wanting to occupy sustainable, healthy buildings. You know, we've just spoken about all these cities that are coming on board, but certainly, you know, major players like Google, Apple, Microsoft, Salesforce are very vocal in their desire to build, you know, very sustainable campuses and occupy, you know, sustainable buildings. And in various parts of the country, we're also starting to see, obviously, the impact on energy prices from the deployment of renewables, with California probably being the most prevalent in that regard. So it is an environment emerging where a lot of the drivers in North America and the US are starting to, which from our perspective indicates that the time for optimizing buildings is arriving. And excitingly, this is really intersecting with a number of PropTech megatrends that we're seeing. So we've all been speaking for the last few years about big data and analytics, the arrival of low cost, these are technology megatrends which will all have a significant impact and be enablers in terms of building optimization, both at the tenant experience, things like wayfinding, understanding what's happening with meeting room utilization, drive optimization around cleaning, etc. But more importantly, of course, from all of your perspective, is how these techies can ultimately help deepen the plant room to drive better building performance. One of the things that we've seen in Australia is the emerging opportunity for companies like mechanical contractors. So in Australia, I can tell you categorically that mechanical contractors have led the way in delivering innovative building optimization services to major owners of commercial real estate in this region. Australia is obviously whilst we're a big landmass, we're only 25 million people, 5 or 6 major cities. So it's not like we have, even hundreds of large contractors. We probably have around 8 to 10 major mechanical contractors that operate nationally in Australia. And I can tell you the vast majority of those have implemented building optimization services. We've seen a growth in the BMS systems integration skills within those organizations. We have absolutely seen them moving towards data-driven services models and strategies. We've seen a number of innovative managed services models that have been deployed to help them more effectively use their skills and resources, moving towards more centralized operation centers that can support people in the field, that can look at how to optimize truck rolls. And we've seen some interesting new commercial models. So we believe that there is no reason why in the North American market we would expect that mechanical contractors equally couldn't, seize the opportunity that now exists in and around delivering building optimization services. And that was really the catalyst for us to go and commission our research report. It started initially as a desire by Envizi to go and better understand the market in the US. We really wanted to understand what contracting firms were delivering by way of building optimization services. We wanted to understand how we could get our technology, deployed in the US market. So we went and engaged an organization called Vedantics. They are an analyst firm based out of London and New York, and they put together a study that has taken nearly 4 months to complete. Excuse me. It included 10 in-depth interviews with mid to large, very reputable services firms across the US, interviews with 65 US real estate and facility management decision makers from across a number of different industry verticals, including, healthcare, higher ed, hotels and leisure, etc. And telephone surveys with around 85 mechanical contracting firms, specifically to look at what they had done around the deployment of data and analytics solutions across the buildings that they service. In terms of some of the results and the insights from that report, so in terms of US real estate decision makers, so these are the people that might be owning or occupying commercial real estate, so really your customers, the number one priority over the next 12 months, reducing utility bills. And I think that is partly due to the notion of, the pennies will count, and maybe just a little bit of a slowing of asset prices and the need to start to work these buildings harder from a financial perspective. Cybersecurity, interestingly, came up at number 2, and I think that's really linked to this whole movement towards smart buildings. So people are definitely thinking about, as we make buildings smarter and more technology enabled, what are the security risks? And then improving occupant comfort and well-being came at number 3. Interestingly enough, when we looked at that over a sort of 3-year timeline in terms of priorities, improving comfort and well-being of building occupants came up as number 1. Now that did surprise us a little bit, but clearly there is a movement towards providing buildings that are well optimized for the conditions for building occupants. We found some other key themes emerging from the study. One of those was that firms were telling us that adapting to changing workforce dynamics was important. So they tell us that it's continually getting harder to find skilled internal FM resources, where buildings used to be run by engineers. Now they're being running by cleaning staff, by security guards. So it's more challenging, and they will continue to look at outsourcing the running of buildings to third parties, like their third-party FM companies and contractors. They told us that it's getting more and more important to meet the stringent green credentials, that pressure coming both from the tenants and occupiers of buildings, as well as the investor market. And we heard a lot about the need for the industry as a whole to start delivering on the digital promise. So really looking at how you take real estate from a laggard in technology to a leader in technology. In terms of the technology side of things, I think there was a strong theme that the industry is at an inflection point for the adoption of technology to really improve building services. I have a personal anecdote. I spoke to a building services engineer late last year, and it was actually here in Australia, and he said to me, it's incredible that you can walk into a store, buy an HP printer, and take it home, and in 5 minutes it's hooked up, it's talking to your iPhone, it tells you how much ink it's got, it tells you when it's going to run out of paper. It costs $99, and yet you can have a building with millions of dollars worth of chiller plant, and you can't access that remotely on your phone. You don't know how it's operating, you don't really have any insights. And I think that's that whole notion of the digital transformation promise that people are looking towards now, and building owners are absolutely looking towards their contracting and services firms to become trusted advisors in building technology. I think they're looking for the sector to move towards outcome-based performance contracting. So they want to know that over a period of time, a building has performed at a certain energy efficiency level, that it has performed at a certain comfort level, and that's really what they want to contract to. They don't want to contract to have X number of truck rolls to come and necessarily do preventative maintenance work. And obviously those type of models need to be supported by data, and this constant theme of supporting building occupant productivity, which is linked to obviously wellness and comfort. And I would encourage you to have a look at what's happening with the International Well Building Institute and the Fitwell standard, which are now key in terms of being able to measure and report wellness and comfort in commercial buildings. Interestingly enough, from the phone surveys that we did, we found that about 30% of firms are currently undertaking pilots or have commenced the deployment of analytics for building optimization. Our deep dive interviews with some of the more mature firms in the space identified a range of benefits for their businesses. So they told us that they really had improved the efficacy of delivering building services using software, so they can really see a lot more through the data. If they send an engineer into a building, jumps on the building management system, there is a certain level of insight that they will find, a certain level of opportunities to optimize the building. But by being able to use analytics, they're finding that they can produce a far better outcome due to the depth of insight that technology can produce versus what humans can reviewing the data. They told us that they are developing new value-added business models with technology. The quote on the right-hand side here is from a director of business development for facility services, who said, because we started our virtual support center because we grew too fast and ran into shortage of technicians, so we turned to technology. So they're adapting the business models. They're certainly managing risks associated with labor skills and shortages. And importantly, a number of them identified the need to protect themselves from the risk posed by tech-savvy market entrants. And I've just provided one example here, an organization. I'd encourage you to go and have a look at their website called Carbon Lighthouse, based out of the Bay Area. They are focused on optimizing buildings, particularly around HVAC systems, by deploying a lot of sensors in the building, and they are very much a technology-driven company. They do not come from a contracting background at all, and they're actually paying companies up front to effectively buy the inefficiency in their buildings and then go and harvest that inefficiency in a gain share type model. So, protecting against those types of new age tech savvy market entrants is a very, very important thing that contracting firms will need to do. We also found that there are a lot of challenges for firms looking to adopt successful building optimization solutions. So the early adopters have told us that their challenges included workforces that are not engaged with the technology. So, one of the quotes here on my screen, our standard services business is comprised mostly of veteran field guys who are not the most tech savvy. So I hope I haven't offended anybody on the call. That's come from somebody from within your own industry. But the graying age of the technician population, it is a bit more challenging to get them engaged with the technology. The need to align internal systems and processes with technology. So it's not all just about, wow, we deployed data and analytics and our world changed. How does that data and analytics ultimately integrate with your existing business processes and systems and your people to create an end-to-end scalable solution? So there's been challenges around integration of people, process, and technology. We've heard a constant theme about when to invest. If clients aren't demanding an optimization solution, do we invest ahead of the curve? And I think this is probably one of the biggest challenges that the sector has to face now, is how do they fund this deployment? Ultimately, clients expected that contracting firms would move towards the use of mobile technology, digital work orders in the field. Did they ask you for that, or did they just expect that within the course of business? So at what point will they simply expect that you're using the right data and analytics tools to be able to optimize the building without necessarily asking, can they buy that kind of technology they expected as part of the solution? There have been challenges around, how much data they need, what to do with all that data. And ultimately, how to get this kind of service fully embedded into the broader range of services that organizations are offering to commercial real estate owners. So really, excuse me again, really the opportunity that we wanted to bring to organizations such as yours was really to be able to benchmark where your organization is in terms of its maturity around building optimization capability. So this is the model that Vedantix took some time to develop. And basically the way it works is it allows you to benchmark your capabilities across 7 key areas: the use of data and analytics, your BMS integration capability, your internal IT systems capability, the breadth of services of your organization, how you operate a best practice operational framework, the building optimization strategy that you've developed, and IT security. So across each of those 7 assessment criteria, you're able to benchmark yourself based on some qualitative measures, and ultimately you'll end up as being either basic, standard, proactive, or innovative in each of those 7 areas. If we look at the initial benchmark that's been undertaken from the surveys we did as part of this research, this is a graph with all of the results. And, there are a number of key takeouts that we were able to glean from this information. I think the first and probably the most important for me is, if you look at this graph, the green line is really what organizations told us their target was across these 7 components, and the blue line is where they see themselves today. So in all categories, organizations see themselves as being short of where they would like to be in terms of a targeted level of performance. I think the second major insight for us was that, the largest gap exists in the use of data and analytics. So on the left-hand side of the graph, currently a score of 2.3 versus a target of 3.8. So, data and analytics is the least mature area for organizations that we've spoken to. Not surprisingly, the breadth of services is where there was actually the narrowest gap between the target and the actual benchmark. And I think this was really a function that, talking to mechanical contracting firms, they do have a lot of breadth of services, from design, build, construct, through to their maintenance and managed services. So overall, the study has got a lot of insights. I think obviously it's important that you go and use this report and this study to benchmark your individual capabilities. There is a growing need to obviously get data out of buildings, and so BMS integration capability, which is really an integral first step to developing deeper building optimization capabilities, is something that you will need to look at. And again, that was an interesting insight that there is a relatively smaller gap around BMS integration capability. So one of the things that we saw in Australia over the last 3 to 4 years is that our mechanical contracting firms did not have a lot of BMS integration capability. Interestingly enough, what we have seen within the mechanical contracting services businesses in the US is that there is a fair amount of skill around BMS integration. So we think that that's a fantastic starting point, because obviously if you can't get the data out of the building, you can't drive the data and analytics engine. So we do feel that mechanical contractors are very well placed because of those BMS integration skills, and because of the breadth of services that they offer, but clearly in areas like IT security and the use of data and analytics, there is still some work to be done in terms of bridging the gap. And right across the board, as organizations have told us that they aspire to have a much higher level of capability than what they currently do. So really, that's it from me in terms of the findings of this research. The report is extensive. It's about a 20-page document. It is genuinely based on a deep empirical research, and it's very much evidence-based. I would encourage you to download a copy of the report, which will be available both on our website, but also will be emailed out as a follow-up to this webinar. And it's a great opportunity for you to initially read the report, fully understand the nature of the benchmarking, the different assessment criteria, and then you can actually go online. We have got an online tool so that you can answer 8 or 9 questions. It will actually create a graph. It'll map you on the building optimization curve and show you how you go relative to your peers and the benchmarks in the market. And hopefully that model will be something that you can use over the next 6 to 12 months as you head down the path of developing your building optimization strategy. It'll help you to really prioritize those areas for improvement and help to define where additional investment is required. So with that, I'm going to wrap up. Thank you very much for listening to my presentation, and I look forward to taking some questions at the end. Thank you.
Thank you so much, David. As we transition to a couple other slides here that we're going to share, remember that if you have questions, David's going to stay on with us, and Tanya and I will be here as well. We've got a couple of questions, but we will have time to answer several at the end. So please chat those into us. This research is going to be just a really big benefit to all of you. Definitely look for the email as David was talking about. Download the report. I think that this is going to create some great conversations in the coming weeks and months. Now I'd like to introduce Tanya March. Tanya leads efforts for North America and collaborates heavily with Energy Print to promote our mutual capabilities. So we're going to take a few minutes and talk to you guys about how Envizi and Energy Print are working together. Tanya?
Great, thanks Priscilla, and thanks David, and hello everybody. Look, leveraging our success and market position within the building environment, our market focus here in North America will definitely be on our building optimization solutions. And to that, we're building a network of partners who are looking to adopt our technology to underpin their services, the services they're delivering to their clients. And this consists of an ecosystem of facility management companies, energy services, engineering firms, and of course, mechanical service contractors. In addition, we will be targeting end user commercial clients, and we will be looking for contractors from this network to deliver a consistent level of HVAC optimization services, leveraging the analytics that our strategic alliance brings. Just as an FYI, the North American Envizi team is based in San Francisco and Denver, and our team has very much been developed to focus on partner acquisition, training, and enablement services. Showing on the screen now is our Envizi product framework. Dave spoke very briefly to that at his introduction. You can see it's the beauty of the Envizi platform is it's modular in its architecture, and this really allows our partners to land on a module and start delivering services using that functionality, but expand to other modular functionality as their client requirements arise. So our left-hand side is very much focused around enterprise reporting, very much relies on the utility bill, and typically these modules are used for client-wide, enterprise-wide reporting requirements. But as we move to the right-hand side, this is around our building optimization, and this is the key focus for Envizi here in North America, and more importantly for our strategic alliance with Energy Print. The energy management solution really leverages the 15-30-minute interval meter data to provide real-time energy monitoring and management. And pre-configured with rules, a number of our modules are designed to deliver the insights to partners with the ease of interpretation and enable them to take action. Along with our energy management solution, obviously our asset optimization solution is a critical component of our market focus. The asset performance monitoring module, and Dave alluded to this with the emergence of the PropTech mega trends around IoT, the asset performance monitoring module is really designed to leverage IoT devices and sensor data to monitor indoor environmental metrics such as lighting levels, motion, in and out of spaces, energy, temperature, humidity, and so on. And this module is really designed for perhaps the non-large central plant equipment environment, more the multi-site bank branches, retail operations, and so on. But it's our EFD solution, our equipment fault detection module, that is spearheading our go-to-market with Energy Print and with building service providers. And this module is a scalable, pre-configured application designed for building portfolios and campuses, very much targeting all HVAC assets, including VAVs and single terminal units. Some of the key features include pre-configured rules and analytics, which is targeting faults and inefficiencies around comfort, maintenance, out of hours, energy faults and optimization issues. It's a highly intuitive module with flexible data connectivity options to streamline data capture from building automation systems. By gathering equipment plate data and building operating schedules with our algorithms, the module also has a soft meter technology which provides an energy profile on every piece of equipment being monitored without the cost of installing, obviously, hardware devices. And finally, this module provides robust reporting, including outputs into Envizi designed Power BI graphical displays, which provide, put in the hands of our joint customers, gives great performance analysis and reporting. Thanks, Priscilla.
Excellent. So as Tanya shared, Envizi's first focus is in the asset optimization, and we have been truly impressed with their capability and have seen early success with several of our clients piloting and trying the equipment fault detection module. Just for those of you on the call who don't know Energy Print, many of you guys do, our focus really is on gathering utility data and supporting the insight that comes out of utility data to drive opportunity and prove results. And while we do have some overlap from a technology platform perspective with Envizi on benchmarking and some of the dashboards that we do, we actually see a great opportunity to expand our utility data services capability by looking to serve clients with the data and insight regardless of the software platform. So while we have our dashboard and do analytics in business intelligence tools as well, we think that the work that Envizi's done on their platform from an enterprise level is hugely valuable, and we're looking to power data into their platform when that's applicable for a client, and to make it seamless for our clients who do want that enterprise level solution. And what that really means for all of you is that together with Envizi, we combine unrivaled data management and advisory services with what we see is best-in-class data analytics software. And we want to help our partners grow their revenue and deepen their client relationships. And so, Tanya, I'm going to pass it back over to you just to explain how do we do this together and where's the complement between our companies?
Absolutely. Thanks, Priscilla. Look, I guess to really illustrate our strategic alliance and how we work, this schematic really brings to life how Energy Print Services complements the best use of Envizi's technology as just positioned by Priscilla. Firstly, Envizi's platform streamlines the data integration from Energy Print's data capture services, particularly, of course, from the utilities and third party. The Energy Print team is able to leverage Envizi's SaaS platform. If you just want to click to the next piece, thank you, to maintain their high quality of stewardship services, including data integrity to ensure completeness and accuracy of data for the clients. Using Envizi's dashboards and reporting tools, Energy Print is able to deliver their building portfolio analysis and benchmarking. And then finally, leveraging Envizi's performance analytics, Energy Print is able to deliver the invaluable analysis and insight reviews for their partners and their clients. What we feel as value drivers that the Envizi and the Energy Print Alliance bring to the market is we feel very comprehensive. And particularly as partners and clients roll out their building and HVAC optimization services to their clients. And these really revolve around revenue generation in a number of ways, the ability through this alliance and the use of the services and analytics to identify and provide corrective services, which may be outside the scope of maintenance contracts, along with the identification of major capital works and equipment upgrade, finding those opportunities and bringing them back into your core work. Certainly enhancing client retention by being more well-positioned to deliver insightful benchmarks of building performance and gaining deeper site knowledge, allowing you to drive more meaningful and collaborative discussions with your clients. Definitely looking at ways of improving productivity and profitability of your service teams by being able to diagnose the issues faster and be better prepared for site attendance and proactively plan preventative maintenance activities. Adopt a position of market differentiation by taking the lead of adopting technology and innovation and promoting that position. And finally, internally, looking at that opportunity to reduce technology cost and risk by eliminating that in-house development costs in favour of a best-in-breed alliance and pay-as-you-grow model. Thanks, Priscilla.
So these value drivers are the same core messages that Energy Print has been talking about with our clients and using utility data for years. And so it's a great alignment with a partner where we can bring services that our customers need and figure out new and unique ways to bring those information and data sources together using technology to really help you serve your customers and help serve the commercial real estate market. So we're going to move to a few questions. I know that we are just about at our 45-minute time limit, but we are going to stay on because we've gotten some questions, and we'll probably take an extra 5 minutes. If you have to go, we understand, but if you'd like to stick around and listen to a few Q&A combos here, please do that. What to remember after this webinar? We've recorded this, so it was a lot of information. You're all going to get a link to it, and you can share it with other participants or people within your organizations. Also, watch for the email that's going to have a link so that you can get a copy of the report. David shared the highlights, but there's a lot more meat in the report that will be available to you, and also that link to actually take the assessment to see where your company is on that technology adoption curve. And then last, Energy Print and Envizi together would love to talk more with you about how we can collaborate to serve your needs. On the screen now, you see both Tanya and I, as well as our business development leaders, Mareed and BJ, and we look forward to having conversations with you guys in the near future. So we're going to tackle a few questions, maybe about 5 minutes or so before we wrap up. So for those of you who want to stay on. David, this first question is for you. What data acquisition strategies do you see most prevalent now and in the next 5 years?
Data acquisition is everything when it comes to driving data analytics and insights. I think from a data acquisition perspective, customers are really looking at two key drivers at the moment. What does it actually cost to acquire data? And then that whole issue around security, cybersecurity, connectivity to the building. So I think those are the two lenses with which customers over the next 5 years will really look at data acquisition strategies. In terms of simplicity, to really meet those drivers, I think customers today are looking, can I get data directly out of existing buildings in the system and easily push that data up into the cloud? So that still is the easiest, most cost-effective, and most secure way that organizations are looking to tackle data. Where they can't get connectivity or easy access to data, and you've got to start deploying third-party middleware devices like Tritium, JASIS, etc. It brings in additional cost and it brings in additional security risks which need to be managed. But I think in the sort of medium 3 to 5 year time horizon, the deployment of low-cost wireless sensors is definitely where we see the market heading strategically. Again, that does bring with it, the security concerns, but we feel that, really low-cost sensors is a big part of the future in terms of data acquisition, and we're just starting to see some of that technology come onto the market now at the price points that's making it effective to deploy at scale in large buildings. And the point I made earlier about that company Carbon Lighthouse, they're leveraging that type of technology now to get hundreds of new sensors into buildings to be able to get a much richer view of data.
Thank you. And Tanya, I'm going to pass this next one to you. So far, as you guys have worked with mechanical service contractors and the professional services market in the US, what kind of savings have you seen in buildings where analytics solutions have been deployed?
Yeah, in fact, I've got a most recent example with where the fault detection was deployed with a large hospital site. I think it was around 460,000 square foot. Annual energy spend of just under $750,000 in just electricity alone, and the payback of analytics was occurring under 3 months of using the analytics. So that was looking at the energy cost savings as well, was probably just under 6%. And definitely proved to be a very strong ROI, and we've got many cases, but that's probably one of the more recent ones that we've run with.
Excellent. And then David, I'm going to do one more question for you, and then we're going to wrap it up. There are a couple other questions. We will make sure we get back with answers to other participants on the webinar if we didn't answer your question live. You talked a lot about counting the pennies and where things are going to go economically. As spending pressures increase, how do you convince owners to make this technology investment and actually prioritize it, given some of the savings opportunity that Tanya just talked about?
Look, I think that does remain one of the challenges. I'm not sure that building owners get out of bed every day and think about necessarily deploying building optimization technologies. I think they really are looking to their service providers around facilities management and the contractor market to deliver them solutions and outcomes. So I think that question really gets to the heart of how is this technology going to be deployed at scale. We have a hypothesis that pretty much every building on the planet has got a minimum 10% low-hanging fruit saving just by optimization of HVAC and controls. How do we get that into market at scale? I don't think commercial real estate owners are going to turn around and ask us all to optimize buildings to the tune of 10%. I think they're going to expect that to be done within the context of their current contracting environments, and they will expect HVAC contractors, their controls contractors, to simply use innovative new age tools like data and analytics to produce better outcomes. And I think as a sector, our challenge is how do we get on the front foot? How do we work out, by collaborating between, contracting firms, technology providers, value-added service and managed providers like Energy Print, how do we together come up with innovative business models where we can simply deliver this to customers in a business as usual model?
Thank you. And again, David and Tanya, thank you so much for joining us today, and all of you who attended the webinar. Remember that You will get an email with a link to the recording, and don't forget to look for the email as well for the benchmarking report that Envizi has commissioned. We're really proud of Envizi and this research that they're bringing to market, and look forward to continuing to share this in our conversations in the near future. Thank you, everyone, for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Priscilla.